The Gothic Remake is finally out, and now I can actually talk about the game itself. And let me tell you something. This game is long, just like the original version, as I once covered before. This is not from Protobytes, but this was being developed around the time that they were still here. Because a couple years ago, they just shut down, after they failed to find a new owner. So yeah, THQ Nordic seemed to have saw some profit into the game series itself, but it didn't seem like Protobytes had any interest in making more Gothic games. So, a new studio called Alchemia Games had gone on to develop the game itself. Oh yeah, for anyone who has Steam or anything else like that, any games that are from Protobytes, you were given a playable teaser of Gothic Remake. And yeah, that came for free for any of the purchases that you make with any of those games itself, whether it be the Gothic series, the Risen series, or the Elix series. But unfortunately, when the playable teaser was shown up, plenty of players left the game teaser overwhelmingly negative reception for its vibrant graphics, too much hand-holding, and plenty of changes that nobody even asked for, but they were still wanting a remake. So, thus a remake would begin. The game was set to be made in Unreal Engine 4 before being switched to Unreal Engine 5. And that was it. The remake itself took a long time to make too, and they've been showing off some progression videos of like how they're developing the game and that, and they have been said that they have been big fans of Gothic and they wanted to faithfully remake the game. And as far as I saw the footage and everything else, they seem to address every criticism they had in terms of the playable teaser, and they managed to improve in so many different ways. The graphics are grimmier, the combat has been like defined a bit, and there's less hand-holding as well, which is what the original series has always been known about. If you guys are curious about like the classic Gothic games, I've already talked about it. I'll make a third one once it hits consoles. So in terms of the remake, you got yourself whoever this guy's name is. You know, this is a sad tale because he never got to finish his introduction of who he is. So anyways, he's been thrown into the barrier place because the barrier or whatever has been, well, accidentally overlarged and whatever, and it's trapped so many people. And things have taken a turn of an offense. So you're tasked to get the letter to the fire mage, and that's about it. But here's the thing, this game is not easy, it's not going to hold your hand, and you're going to have to try to figure your own way out to where to go. Oh yeah, you start off as level 0, and then if you get hit once by like a scavenger or whatever, well, it's game over for you. And look, before anyone says anything about the game's combat or whatever, look, I know it looks horrible at first, but there's a reason for this. Your character is inexperienced, meaning he has never been in a fight before, so of course it's going to be all clunky and janky. It's meant to be like this on purpose, in design, and it makes sense. But if you get trained with your leveling up to get these learning points and be able to make money, which is the in-game currency of ores, nuggets, or just nuggets, ores, it doesn't matter it's going to be referred to. That's just how it is. Coins are just nothing but junk, and getting the nuggets is way to be making money. Getting those things will earn you some weapons, armor, items you need for healing, and plenty more, especially magic. And that's it. You're gonna have to try to level yourself up. The more you level up, the more you'll do good. You can have people teach you to increase strength, and also to teach you dexterity, which dexterity can help you be better when it comes to more damage in terms of bow and arrow or a crossbow. Strength is more like melee weapons, but if you prefer to play any of those, then be my guest. There's also magic, like I mentioned before, which you're gonna need mana, and that's basically it. You can learn this from any of the magicians in the game, if they are willing to teach you, that is. But it takes a lot more courage to learn the magic itself, because there's a lot to learn in this game, and lots to look into. You can learn how to swim, you can learn to be acrobatic, and you can learn a lot of things. There's plenty of quests, And this is what I recommended for you guys to do, is do some quests so you can get more XP. Enemies like the scavengers and the mole rats are basically the easiest enemies you'll ever encounter, but be careful of the adult scavengers because they are difficult at times, depending if you are less skilled. Armor is basically expensive in the game, but I know there's a miner suit in the game itself, but you can just get it for free in different ways. But it's like the more you explore, the more you can find some stuff in the game, just like the original. Look, the original was never perfect in combat, but it makes sense. You can block in the game, but you can also parry. But again, you're going to need to learn how to do it yourself. You got to find ways to get people to train you and whatever. It's not for free. Like I mentioned, you need to spend either just learning points or learning points and nuggets. Because if you don't have nuggets, then you can't get trained. And that's basically, again, by design. This is by every Piranha Byte games they've ever done, ever since the first Gothic game. The game has 3 factions for you guys to join. You got the old camp, new camp, and even the swamp camp. Each of them have their own different sets of skills of like quests. If you do enough quests, you can join one particular thing at a time. And look, it doesn't alternate the story anyway, but it is enough for you to have some sort of replay value whenever you want to join each faction. The game can also take you a very long time to beat too, with an over 40 hours of gameplay. As far as I also play the game too, I came to find out there's very little new stuff in the game. They added like a brand new climbing skill that you guys can learn pretty early in the game. So if you guys want to survive in this game, I highly recommend giving you guys 2 skills. The best diver skill and also the climbing skill. You're going to be needing them for some cases here and there, especially if you guys want to do some quests. But everything else is entirely up to you. If you want to use one-handed weapons, two-handed weapons, orc weapons, a crossbow, and even some bow and arrows. But here are some good news for this. In terms of the bow and arrows or crossbows, you don't need to lock on to in order to fire enemies now. You're free to aim, which is pretty good. Same thing with magic, because in the original you had to lock in onto an enemy if you want to use certain magic. But not all magic is required to lock on, because you have things like healing and teleporting. In case you guys are gonna think this game lacks a fast travel, don't worry. You can get sprint pretty early in this remake, because as far as I remember, sprinting was, in fact, in the game, unless that was the second one, but it was locked. But they gave you sprinting as a free token, I guess you can say. So at least it's nice that they added sprinting as a first thing you guys can get pretty early, because traveling is long. I'm not sure if this was even in the original, because I don't recall ever seeing this quest. But you can get yourself a scavenger if you do happen to complete a certain quest. Once you complete a quest, then you get the scavenger whistle, and then you can try to tame a scavenger, and then that way you can ride it like a mount. That way you can travel a lot faster. And yes, you can pet the scavenger if asking. The lockpicking in this game has taken a huge change, unlike the original. Because in the original version, you had to take a wild guess on the pattern of the lock combination of going left, up, or right, and that will be it. But this one is a simple lockpicking minigame, and it's a bit complicated, but once you get the training and get the idea of the grips, then you get used to how it is. It can be hard at times, which is unfortunate, but if you do get enough training, then you won't have to restart your progress in terms of the lockpicking mechanic. Although you can choose to restart the whole thing if you really want to, in case you feel like you messed up in a way or so. If you guys happen to be struggling and making money in the game, some quests will give you money, but I highly recommend you guys get trained on how to hunt, or at least like get some parts of the skin and whatever. So that way, even though they do cost nuggets to learn, along with some of the points, you can still make the money regardless whenever you try to trade in some parts. But there are some quests that have things called the hunting stuff, or it's just a beast knowledge thing. They pretty much test your strength and whatever, but once you complete them, not only that you complete your quest, get experience, but you can learn brand new ways in order to, well, take parts off of the certain animals and beasts in the game, and that's pretty much it. It's pretty cool. And yeah, the original also had this as well, if anyone's curious. Trying to learn magic in the game can be a bit complicating, because it can cost you a bunch of life points. Well, in terms of trying to do the magic, you'll need a robe, which can increase your magic abilities. I should also mention that whenever you talk to the water mages and whatnot, they can teach you the first cycle, the second cycle, which are required for runes. Yeah, I say runes because even though you can make scrolls, they can run out and they can expire, but unlike that, runes do not expire. And that's the biggest thing, although they can be quite expensive to obtain in a way. Depending on the faction you choose, you can also improve your armor set. Whenever you talk to people, you can have them improve it, but for some weird reason, it costs money. Yeah, imagine joining a faction, you still have to pay to do all of that. Yeah, the original also had the same thing, but I get what they were doing. You're gonna want to increase some of your strength and whatnot. In case you want to play as in the archer style or in the melee combat style, then dexterity is gonna be for the ones that's range, and strength is for close combat. And you'll be needing them in order to do some damage to them. The armor is usually there for defense purposes. You can also make potions, believe it or not, to increase your strength, your health, mana, and all sorts of things. You need the proper ingredients, and you also need to know how to make them. Same with like making the weapons in the game as well. This also applies to the original in case anyone's curious. But yeah, you gotta get yourself some trainers on how to like do all this stuff. They're pretty cheap to learn, so it's fine for what it is. But yeah, plants can be a bit complicated to find, but once you find them, then it's no problem. I don't want to sound like it's spoilery or anything, but just to save the spoiler parts or whatever, I'm just going to mention real quick that nothing does be revealed or anything, but the only thing I would just mention about the part of the game is that the final boss has actually been reworked completely than the original version, so at least it's something different, so that's why I can technically say that. They also seem to make the story far more memorable than what it was in the original, because the only thing that people remember about the original version was this horrible voice acting, but that's basically what everybody thinks when it comes to Gothic. But yeah, they also shown like some new cinematic cutscenes in some areas of the game, but that's it. But yeah, they also do try to do a best job to make it seem interesting in terms of this game. But when you go to the load times, when you come back from saving your game or whatever, they do tell you like, hey, this happened so far or whatever. I don't think the original ever did that. I'll also mention this, since people have already mentioned this online. There are some technical problems at some parts of the game. I've heard that the base PS5 and some parts of PC had their own issues, but I played this on the Xbox Series X version. I wasn't having much of the issues besides micro stutters, which is fine, it's not gonna be unplayable or anything, but when I was getting to the final parts of the chapters, I experienced some heavy frame drops for some reason, even when there was nothing going on, but this was only in the Sleeper Temple place. Yeah, another place you'll have to go in the main quest, by the way, but just for sakes, I'm not gonna like expose too much of it, but the only thing I'll say is for some reason, there were some performance problems, which I have no idea what was causing it. Even when there's nothing was going on, like I said, it still caused frame drops regardless. And what's weird is that even when I also played it in performance mode, it still did the same thing regardless, so it didn't make any difference to me, so yeah, nothing much I can say. Although they did have a thing called the limit FPS thing that you guys can play around with, like 30, 60, or unlimited, but I think some parts of it has to do with like remote play or something. Just a couple of last things too before I cap out this video. They have difficulty selection mode, which I'm getting not everybody's a big fan of, but it's still going to be hard regardless as far as I can tell. But you can customize it. Yeah, you can customize your own difficulty to have like easy resources or scares, or perhaps permadeath mode if you guys want to challenge yourself. Not that the game is already hard enough already, but if you want to challenge yourself, then that's fine by all means. But I did play this game under the normal Gothic difficulty, that is. So that's basically what I would just say from here and there. So yeah, there's gonna be different paths you guys can choose, or maybe some places you didn't even know exist, like secret places. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it all to you guys. You're gonna have a very long journey, and I have seen people that stated that they would love to see a Gothic 2 remake, considering the success that the game is already having in terms of critics and sale-wise. It's already sold 500,000 units so far, so we'll have to see what happens then. But if you guys are curious on the originals, they're already going to be coming out on PlayStation and Xbox systems. They're already available on PC and Switch. Not that Gothic 3 is on Switch 1, it'll be on Switch 2 soon enough. So yeah, if you guys are thinking about giving up this game in like 10 minutes or something, don't give up. You'll get there. Once you get enough proper training in that, you'll have the best experience you'll have in the game itself. So that's basically all I will say about this game. And so you can try to save the world as what's his face, and maybe we'll learn his name or so. Maybe not. We don't know. We don't even know because he never got to finish his introduction. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna leave it up to. Yeah.